Well, it's time for some podcast tune. We hope you keep on listening because it's time for Hey, I am your host, Levi Dylan Versloff, and this is Talking Tremors. And you know what? You hear enough of me. We have a part two of one of my favorite Tremors people besides Steve Wilson or Michael Gross, Jonathan Melville of the official guide Seeking Perfection. John, how you doing, man?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for asking me back. It's good to be here.
You know what? It was you. You were the listening. I was telling John I never listened to any episodes of my show, but I had to listen to this one that we did previously, which you haven't heard. There's a part one, a ride through Melville, and I had to listen to because I had to go through and check off questions. And I did. I really did enjoy it, just listening to you so much. But it was you. You were like, "Oh, I'd love to come back. I'd love to do another one." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, totally, man. Let me do that." So this is all on you, baby. I'm
Yeah,
so excited.
here we are. Yeah.
I almost snuck into your accent with doing you, so just forgive me. I do it a lot on the show. I just do. I love voices and people's the way everybody talks. I can do an impression of myself even too, but that's really shoving it up my own ass. So if I drop there, forgive me. But okay, I was literally going to start with the back, like I had started with the front, and we went through. It was a third. You asked how many questions. It was 50 questions, and we had done a third of them last time. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's a lot. I'll send you a picture of it when it's all said and done.
Cool.
I love people. I love knowing more and stuff. So I was going to start with the back instead of the front, and I only added one, two, three, four, five, six questions. But I'm going to just do this one. What would a Scottish Tremors look like? Like if you had to make and it was legit inspired by when I was reading the opening, your intro to Local Hero and A Kind of Magic, and there's no Scottish, but I can't say none. There's a limited Scottish film industry, and it was what is that Scottish
Yeah.
Steve and Brent got a script, and they come over with Nancy and Ron and Michael, and they're making a Scottish Tremors movie. What's that look like?
I don't know. I mean, I think I remember mentioning to Michael Gross in an email when I was doing the book, and I said they should have a Scottish Tremors called Terror in the Heather. But maybe actually now we're thinking about Heather, maybe we could bring back Heather Gummer. But I don't know. I think there probably would be a Scottish island where there are mysterious experiments happening with some crazy scientist who's maybe taken some graboid eggs from Nevada and he's taken them over to Scotland. And it all goes wrong on this island and starts killing everybody. And they have to bring in Bert to save them. And there's no escape because it's all on this island. And there's a storm and the boats get wrecked. Something like that. I don't know. Because in a lot of Scotland, not everywhere, but in a lot of Scotland, there are mountains, of course, and that is a problem for graboids. So, I mean, there might be some on some islands as well, but I think it's definitely
How
more
much how much
fertile ground.
how much alluvial soil do you have on your mountains? Sorry. Is there
Yeah.
topsoil, or how much you got there?
Yeah, not sure. But
We got bogs, don't you? There's bogs and such everywhere.
yeah, no, that's true. There's peat bogs and things like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a great piece of land called the Flow Country, which is further up north, up in Caithness, and it's just it's kind of a protected area. But yeah, it's all peat bogs, and there used to be forests. The Caledonian forest. My knowledge is sadly shockingly bad, but I think it was anyway. There was lots of trees, and now it's all just peat bogs and things. So yeah, maybe there's something you could do with the water, but I think it needs to be something where people just get it's that thing of being enclosed, isn't it, and trapped, and how do you get out? And you're just trapped with the creatures. So I just think an island is an obvious one. But I guess they also had that in, was it Shriek? I'm asking because I've only
I'm
seen it
saying,
once.
no,
It's
I'm
at
just
Shrieker
saying,
Island, isn't it? So
like, where were you in 2019? Come on, what was come on?
yeah,
That
so
would be
Shrieker Island it'd be Shrieker Island 2 then, let's call it that.
Scottish Islands. God, that would be good too. Oh man, I like that. Actually, I did write a small. It was literally like Highlander Tremors. Like I wrote a whole bunch of short stories once of just like little scripts, and it was just Highlander Tremors. There was a McLeod in it too, just because I just had to.
You just need to ask Chat GPT now, don't you?
Don't don't do that to us. But I always had the theory that because I love the idea that the Scottish Highlands and the Appalachian Mountains are the same mountains, and
Right.
like they're the same mountain range apparently, like actually like stretching. And I just always thought that like going towards a Precambrian worm, there's something interesting there to like use a mountain from America that stretches to Scotland. I don't know. That's my geography figuring it out. It has nothing to do with Scotland besides the mountains itself. But
Well,
I
listen,
think
I've
they're
just
beautiful.
asked as we were here, I've just asked Chat GPT for the plot,
Oh God.
and it says the story follows Fiona MacLeod, a young wildlife biologist studying the local ecosystem in the Highlands, and Angus Campbell, a rugged sheep farmer who knows every inch of the land. When Fiona begins to notice strange behavior in the local fauna and unexplainable seismic activity, she teams up with Angus to investigate the source. And they discover mythical creatures called gargantua, enormous worm-like beasts said to have slumbered beneath the highlands for centuries. I don't know. There's no sign of Bert though in this one, so
Well, Terror and Heather, like that's where you know what Bert doesn't show up, but Heather does. That's like the
yeah,
second act twist leading into the third act climax. Like,
yeah,
oh, you're all of a
that's it.
sudden.
Everybody thinks it's Bert, but as you say, it's Heather. Heather's on holiday in Scotland because
Yeah.
she's got the red hair, hasn't she? Reba's got the red hair, so I don't know if that's
Oh,
Irish background or Scottish, but
it's adjacent enough that I think you could play with that a little bit. She's visiting family in
yeah,
Scotland or in Ireland.
McIntyre. I'm sure that must be Scottish. I'm sure McIntyre's Scottish. This podcast is going off in a different direction, isn't it, than we planned? But
Nope. There's no planning with this. Like, you know how hard it is not to ask us, hey, what do you think about Doctor Who right now? I mean,
yeah,
we could
it doesn't really say where our family came from, but yeah,
McIntyre. Then.
but yeah,
Yeah.
Doctor Who. I've watched. Have you watched? Well, let's not go into too much detail about Doctor Who. But have you
Oh no,
watched
no, no,
today's one?
no! I haven't watched Rogue yet. I haven't got to that. But I mean, you can spoil it. I don't care. And
No,
anybody
no, no.
who's
I'm not going
listening,
to spoil it. No, no, no.
no, I've loved the shooty. Has just been absolutely amazing.
Tonight's one was, or today's one was quite fun. We get it at midnight now, so you can watch it with your breakfast instead of because we get it on Friday night midnight,
it,
and
we get it
which I think ties up with America at
Friday at 7. We get it Friday at 7, so
right.
it's similar or whatever. But I got home late last night, so I didn't get time to watch it yet. But
Yeah,
I'm excited. Like yeah, it's just been stellar. Honestly, that dot and bubble, and then that last Nashuti's reaction. Actually, I had to clip it and gif it. His reaction to the we'll just say the racism at the end, and then just him just like laughing and freaking out and like crying. Like that
yeah,
was an
yeah.
amazing emotion. Like I was stunned. I loved it so much. But what
Absolutely. And
we could
in tonight's one, there's more of a Scottish accent in this one, which is quite cool. So
Oh yeah, because he is from Scotland. He like immigrated from
yeah,
Rwanda. So oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
even cooler for you. Oh my god, even put that together. Sorry. Now
yeah,
there's 4 Scottish doctors.
yeah,
Sure. Yeah,
yeah,
McCoy, Tennant, Capaldi, and Nishuti. I know my
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. No, that's good.
um. Oh, thank you for going on that tangent with me. I appreciate that.
Right, next question. Come on.
No, okay, so I've been seeing this number from Gail, like you write in the book that there's an $11 million budget for Tremors, but Gail Ann Hurd, I've actually been talking to her for Tremors Fest even, has said it was $6 million for Tremors, like their budget. Which one of those numbers do you think is right? Because weirdly, I believe the 6/11%. Like, because everything, like, looking at the other movies, it seems more in line with what someone would pay for that rather than the 10
Yeah.
million 11 that they did then.
I mean, if she says six, then I guess it must be six. I can't remember who it was who I quoted now because we're talking 10 years ago.
Oh, I
Uh,
know.
so I can't quite remember who it was that told me that, but I think different people. Was it maybe Nancy? Not sure.
I think that was either
But
Nancy or Jim. I
it
think
was
that
a little
was
bit confusing. I think I remember at the time. I think being a bit confused because then there was an extra million given later on, wasn't there? And
yeah, for the car scene.
yeah, so between 6 and 11, I think.
That, like I said, it was just like that was a new discrepancy that I just like
Yeah.
talking to Gail recently. I was like, hold on, what's the because Tremors and money, I'm always trying to like nail that one down. Um,
Hmm.
it's my curiousness. Like that's what we talked about last time, where like what happened with Tremors, and both of us just came down to money. Like someone they wanted control and the money, and that's the only thing that really makes sense for that in the end. So
Think so.
I hate I hate it too. As two poor people just doing our little stuff here, like I get it.
Yeah.
Do, 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 do. Oh man, we'll save that one for later. So okay, you have a spouse, right,
No.
or a partner? Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, I thought. See, my question was going to be how much have you annoyed your partner about Tremors? I kept seeing that somewhere. That is my bad then.
Well,
I
I
would.
did. I mean, I did, but I don't now. So, well,
Oh,
not a spouse. I had a partner, but not now. So,
did you? Okay, was it while you were writing the book?
what that I had a partner? Yes. Well, yes. So I think that was 2015 it came out. So, yeah.
I love
But
you.
no, but yeah, but no. I mean, at the time, very supportive and but it must, anyone that's got a partner, the partner who's the creative or one just doing weird things, the other partner, I guess, must just look on and they have to become comfortable with it or leave, I suppose. But
That's been Caitlin. Like she's traveled like all the way across the country with me and whatever, and she's still like, I don't, I love you. I don't get this is insane, but I'm here to thumbs up you all the time. So
yeah, yeah,
I just always had to. That was one that I asked Octavio and Zoran too, just to be like, so what are your spouses think about all this? All right, awesome.
yeah.
Oh, boom, boom, boom. What are your thoughts on Kevin returning and only to erase all the sequels? Like Kevin's pilot, like he wanted to come back, but he wanted to get rid of all the sequels. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I think, well, if that's the way they were going to go, then if it had been a success, of course, then I think it's fine to I mean, I suppose like Superman, isn't it? Just as a random example, I'm just thinking about all the different sort of Superman TV shows that we've had and films, and they're all a slightly different take on it and slightly different universe, perhaps. So I think I could just about cope with it. Although I think it would be odd then if Bert was to come back into it at all, and I mean, it would get confusing because if it had gone to series when it was made, when the pilot was made, obviously Fred Ward would have been around, and they said they wanted him back. So then I suppose you immediately start having to go down different parallel timelines, don't you? Because then did he have the ostrich farm? Did Tremors 2 happen? Well, if it didn't, then it's a different Earl. So I don't know. I think I think just new. It could have just been fun. I mean, I was always a little bit dubious just about the. I mean, it's little things which maybe just don't matter at all. But at the time, I remember reading the script and the language was always. I mean, this was before we got the new. Was it before? Round about the same time as we got the new Tremors sequels,
Uh,
and
uh, Actually, the sixth one and the pilot came out at the same time, like
yeah,
2018. 2017.
So that point, anything that Tremors fans, old school Tremors fans, kept. Well, it's me. I think you're similar, but there was we've said before there was the Stampede Tremors, which was a little bit family friendly, definitely not dumbed down or child friendly as such, but they were just a little bit more PG, I think, weren't they? Whereas
Yeah.
I think they've increasingly gone up in age. So,
When you
and that's just something I was always a little bit dubious about with the Burt sequels, the new ones, was that sort of just making him into this. We've been through this before, I think, last time, just talking about was that really the Burt that we.
you're fine.
Yeah, well, I just think it's just that thing of was that our Burt or was that a parallel universe Burt? Because it didn't seem like the same Burt. So maybe it already split. Maybe if we look at it as the Stampede verse and then the
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 universal version of this.
exactly the universal. Was it 1440? Was that the name of the company? Was it
Yes,
14?
yes. Yeah, Universal 1440. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's the 1440 verse, and then they would have
That's what
had the Bloom verse.
yeah.
So maybe there's room for all these things, and I mean, of course, I would have loved the comic book series as well. That would have been amazing, and that would have gone off in a different direction. So I
I
suppose
expect
I don't know what the answer to that really is. I think fine, as long as it had been good and entertaining, and it's such a shame that we didn't get to see more of Kevin as in that role. I really hope that it still happens. Maybe it'll still happen.
with what I've been doing for Tremors Fest, I have been talking to a lot of the Tremors pilot people, and I am just like I can feel it like just this close to like because I've been direct messaging Vincenzo Natali, and I'm just like, hey man, I'll just throw that over here. Nobody has to know how it happened, and then we get that pilot out there, and it just that's it. That's all we gotta do, man. It's not a lot or whatever. And actually, I had a whole because like just going through and like trying to get people for Tremors Fest, I had a really sad moment. Um, just trying to find stuff for the pilot and going on to Instagram because I don't use Instagram like at all. But seeing that's where all the people from the pilot were like posting stuff back then, and I was really reminded of the first Tremors movie. Like you could sense what I've read in the book, like that camaraderie was exactly what they had when they made the pilot. Like there was this, everybody was firing on all creative cylinders and having a good time, and they were out in New Mexico just like making a weird move, like making a weird thing about worms. And there's not a person who made
Yeah.
that doesn't want it seen. And there's a thing in the script that I've read where like Mindy gets a little like overtly sexual with Val that I'm always just kind of like, that's my one, like,
Mm.
okay, I see why, because of the trauma and stuff. Just like, it's that, it goes to that Bert aggression, like that, the Bert thing in the language where you're just like, I don't know if we needed to go here. I think we still could have been fine without this. However, I guess I see where that happened. But I guess in my mind, I would have just made it like the Mad Max movies. These are all just different story, like they're your same character, but you're just telling it different lenses and
Yeah.
stuff. Sometimes we get Mel Gibson, sometimes we get Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's a tricky one. It's that whole question, I suppose, of um, you bring so things get rebooted, I guess, because they were successful at some point in the past. Usually, not every time, but usually, and usually there's this fan base attached to it, and things get rebooted and changed so much that you think, well, was it for the people that loved it originally because that's why it was popular, or are you making it, I guess, for this new audience because you think they will maybe embrace it more than the original people, and they're more important than the old people. Well, old, and I
yeah,
mean
just
that
say
actually
it.
because usually it is older people. I don't know. I mean, that's a whole bigger discussion, but that I think it probably comes into a bit. that chat about the most recent three Tremors films, who were they made for? Because there is a small, the Tremors fandom is quite small, and I appreciate you've got to try and get more than just that number of people on the official Facebook page or whatever, or that buy my book. But if it's changed so much that even they don't recognize it, and the new people don't like it, then you've got the old people not liking it, and the newbies not liking it. Who likes it? I mean, uh, anyway. That's a bigger question, isn't it? But
I would actually say it goes to your family friendly thing. The the way that I see it get more fans in the best way is someone older showing it to someone younger, whether that's parent to kid or older brother to like younger brother, like or older friend to younger person, where it's like, hey, I fell in love with these movies. They're awesome. You should check it out. And then it goes, oh, okay, I see why you fell in love with this movie. It's never oh, I just watched Tremors 5 on Netflix and now I love the Tremors movie. I do not ever see, and I've seen like everything. It's like my job to see everything about Tremors fans. And it's like, no, it's always someone older just like sharing it with them. And if you take away that like thing that made the people who are older like it, then why are they going to show it to anybody else anymore?
yeah,
Um,
I get as well, of course, as a creative person that you want to put your own stamp on it, and I suspect that's obviously part of it as well, because you're thinking, well, I just don't want to copy what other people did 30 years ago, but again, I'm just yeah. There's so many things that get rebooted and brought back, and like the new Quantum Leap, just as an example, I was really looking forward to that. I love the original Quantum Leap, and of course, I appreciate the world has moved on in 30 years, and that's great. And we've got different viewpoints now, and society has changed. But there's little things I thought they would keep, like the theme tune, and the fact that when he leaps, he goes all blue and white, and Ziggy with the voice. Now, those are just three little things, but they're quite major things. So old fans didn't get them because they didn't have the theme tune. He didn't ever leap with an effect. And Ziggy only spoke, I think, in the title sequence once. And I just think you couldn't even do that for the original fans just to make us feel. I know we're not that important, but at the same time, maybe we'll tell new fans to watch it and say, I'm watching this show that's a reboot of my favorite show. You should try it because it's not just because it's got a blue light in it, but because it's cool. And but that's a weird. I just don't get why would you take the theme tune? Everybody knows the theme tune, and it's a great one. And they just had a word coming towards you that said, or two words, quantum leap. Yeah. Oh right. Okay. That's exciting.
brings you into it. Honestly, I think of
Little things.
in it. Well, the Godzilla movies right now, I think, are doing it right in terms of like you got to make something new. You got to have those pieces of the old to be like, oh, hey, that's I always love seeing fans of stuff, even if I have nothing about it, like know nothing about it. Be like, oh, it's that thing from the other thing, and like that's how this happened. It's like that's always endlessly fascinating to me. And I think it builds a bigger world. Even talking about Doctor Who, like if you reboot it, you still have to have like I always love that the first episode of the Ninth Doctor is the Autons, and even if you know nothing about the Autons, you're still like in it. And then later on, you're like, oh, that's the whole thing back with the Third Doctor and everything. Like
Yeah.
you tie this world in, and I'm always so mad with Tremors that like there's this 30-year history, and like they haven't rebooted it, but they still don't like fully want to acknowledge that other canon, and it's just
Yeah. Well,
I,
yeah. I mean, I think as well, I suppose it would have been a shame not having Michael Gross. I mean, of course, the guy has done, he is Tremors, so and then, of course, Kevin probably, possibly doesn't want, I don't know. I can't, who knows? We
that's
speculating,
another
but
like with the money, that's one that I'm always trying to figure out. Although I will say that, like, I'll wrap it with this: that having spoken with Andrew Miller, the writer, and then Vincenzo Natali, and then reading all the interviews that they wrote about it, like, especially Andrew Miller, like Universal told him, like, no, no, you can't reference any of the sequels or do anything like that. And he went like, okay, yeah, no, I totally won't. And then just was like, no, so I'm gonna just do this instead. No, like, I didn't reference them. It's not there. And because
Yeah.
there's references to like Fred Ward in it, and he actually has a specific like tweet because someone was like, "Is Bert gonna be in it?" And I'll always remember navigating the stormy desires of personal opinion and corporate desire is like walking across perfection with a graboid underneath. But with Walter Chang as my witness, there's room in this world for the Gummers. So that was him. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know how I'm gonna get them in there, but I want them in there, and they need to be in there. And I just like I I would have loved to have seen it happen. He could have done it with 8 episodes. Who knows? Um,
Well, it's
I
just, well, I'm sure, I can't remember exactly what we said last time, but I'm sure we touched on it, didn't we? The world of, well, just this, I mean, yeah, we could say here for ages just raging and going, why? But you just think Tremors, all these studios looking for new franchises or rebooted franchises. Tremors just feels, I don't know, it just feels like a natural one, doesn't it? The fact we got those three new ones means
like
something. But yeah, I know we're always sitting here going, well, why is it not? Why did they stop with three? And maybe they do need to reboot it and sort of start afresh for a new generation. I think they should keep the past in there. They should. I think what happened in the first few films, or at least the first film, then let's just say that happened, and maybe yes, you do reinvent it afterwards, but baffling, isn't it? Why they're not doing more and yeah.
okay, I'm gonna do it right now because I have to. All right, we're already here. Nobody's gonna, yeah, nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna listen. Steve, if you're out there, please forgive me for saying this right
You don't have to if you don't want to say anything that's going to get you
now.
in
No, no, no,
trouble.
no, no, no. It's not gonna get me in trouble because Steve knows full well how much I talk and who I'd be talking to in the first place. But it is like we are getting really, really close to having Stampede Entertainment back when it comes to Tremors. Like the negotiations, as I understand it, are happening sometime this summer. Like they were originally going to happen since we were going to have Tremors Fest in July. It would have been after that, but now since it's October, there's some things we might be able to do at Tremors Fest. That's why I've been looking for the pilot because Stampede is like at that it's at that lawyer point of like actually going to the table with Universal to get the IP back, like for goodsies. And that's actually something I get to say because that's something that I did personally. It wasn't anybody else. So that was go
Is
me.
that the
Actually, it was
lawyer, the lawyer stuff? Well,
yeah
again,
no
you might want to cut this bit out. I don't know, but
no because nobody listens. But actually, I've talked about it a bunch on the show where like after the seventh movie and I saw what happened to Burt Gummer, and then it was literally like buying your book and reading it and then getting like really confused about like how is it that there's all this Tremors and we're still doing it yet we're gonna like get rid of it and not do anything with it. And then I
yeah,
actually sent all the information off to a copyright lawyer named Mark Toberoff. And I've talked about this before on the show. This is not new for anybody. Um, and because he got the rights to Predator back to Jim and John Thomas, he got the rights to Friday the 13th back to Victor Miller. And I was like, hey, my like these people at Stampede need your help. And he was like, I can actually do that. And so
cool.
they've been working the last 3 years, and I'm that's not me jinxing it. I'm just like we're close. So there's hope. Like we don't have to rage too much. Like there's something, and they're getting up in age, so I don't know how much like more they can do. But I would just love one last film with them. Their eighth Tremors. Get the Tremors end game, the whole gang back together, and then I don't know. Like that's a let
Yeah,
them ride
get.
off. Let them ride off into the sunset.
Oh, that'd
Because
be
that's
cool.
like
Wouldn't it? Get all the different sidekicks back for one film.
everybody, man. Or one season of a TV show, a mini. Actually, I grew up on mini series. I'd love a mini series of it. You know, a
I think
good
a miniseries makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, 8 episodes or
a 4 to 8 parter. You know, and just like
yeah.
because trying to get all those people in one movie would be a lot. But I'm hoping.
Fingers
So
crossed.
don't be too sad. Like let's just keep keep that hope alive.
Okay.
Um, okay, now I'm back to the front page again. Cool, cool. So make a mix master monster.
Mixmaster monster.
Yeah, I've had cactus dog, squid fly. Um, there was one with a leopard. Oh, an ape leopard.
Well, I think if it was going to be set in Scotland, it would have to be a thistle. And we used to have wolves. So maybe it's a thistle wolf.
Ooh, that just sounds cool. Thistle wolves. I like saying that. Thistle wolves. Because that's one
Um,
that I've always like. I think Mixmaster, like I love graboids and shriekers and ass blasters, but like Mixmaster as a plot line is one of those like, how do you just leave that in the bin over here? That's like that's easy
yeah.
money. Just make that happen. Like, why is that not in movies? Why is that? It's just nuts to me because it doesn't take like you just said thistle, wolf, uh, tree, water. Like you just like
Yeah.
look around and just start like adding stuff. Like it doesn't take much. Um,
Yeah.
but I love that. Thank you. Um, do you have any like authentic props from the movies? I don't either. Like I
No,
said, I'm
no, I
looking.
don't. No. All I've got is the promotional booklet from the TV series, the Guide to Perfection. Save. Yeah, that one, How to Survive Perfection. That's a great book. It's great fun.
This one's this actually has what I think is like one of the definitely not Bert things to say, where it's like, oh, if you're being chased, like find someone fatter than you and hide behind them, like for their body heat. I'm like, uh, I don't think Bert Gummer would say that. However, that's
No.
fine. It's your book.
Well, no, I wish it did. I've never actually looked into that really. I think I spend so much money on Blu-rays and DVDs and that I don't think I can justify hundreds of pounds on a, a Burt base. I'd love to get a Burt baseball cap, but I can never, I did look for every time there's a film comes out, I look for them and then I've never managed to get one. So,
I actually recommend Etsy. Oh my god, I have because I ended up getting four of them. Why are they not sitting around here? Yeah, hold on one second. I just have to. Yeah. Oh, there they are. Yeah, there's this guy on Etsy, BTO surplus that does them.
oh,
They're like
wow.
20 bucks.
Oh,
20
nice.
bucks with like 5 to 10 for shipping. And yeah, I got all the hits, all the classics.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh yeah. And he even sends little like holiday cards with like
Oh,
happy
fantastic.
Thanksgiving and like yeah. His name is Matt. He's a cool guy. But
Right. I'll have a
if
look.
you want a hat, I would like I said, I would recommend BTO surplus on Etsy.
Okay.
Um, just to have one. They're not official or anything, but it's still nice regular corduroy hats. I like them. Um,
Great.
and I got no official merch either, so I can't say that I do. It's just one of those things that like, do we have it? No, we spent all of our money doing all this instead. I almost spent $600 on a shrieker yesterday, and I was just like, then I found out the shipping was like $1,000. I was like, that
Oh,
doesn't. Oh, that's just not. That was not the price I was looking for there.
no. No, I mean, I do wish that I don't buy too many NECA type things, but, I did get a little Alf figure and an Indiana Jones thing, not from them, but from someone else a couple like last year. So I'll get the odd thing, but bringing out some sort of. But then we're back to this thing about Tremors just being this weird little cult, which is bigger than it should be, sort of thing. Because of course we got all the sequels. So, I don't know if could they justify a Burt Gummer figure? I don't know.
I've seen it talk so many times, like not just like fans and stuff, but I've seen NECA like try to get it to happen, and Arctic Figures try to get it to happen, and it's just like a comic or a video game. Universal never wants to give up the license, so it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen. you'll see comics writers and artists every few years on Twitter saying, how can I get the rights to make a Tremors comic? And then it's probably you replying to them saying, you're not going to get it.
Well, actually, when I do say that is like saying, "Hey, look, you're not going to get it. Just make it anyway. Like, just make it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter." Especially with the Universal 1440. I know you like talked about that tweet where it's like literally the first day of Tremors Fest last year they closed out like Universal 1440 that had made 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 like closed down, and then we're here at this fest like celebrating the movie. It's just like ultimate confusion. But ever since then, I've just been like, just do it, because I know Steve well enough that like if they get the rights back, that he would love to see that. Like he's like, oh my god, here, take the license and do that, because that's one of his main. There's like a fifth of the questions on that fact page that are just like, why aren't there toys or games or comics? And he's like, I would love that too, but they just won't listen to me. I actually got to point that out. There is one comic called Hendrix by this guy named Matt Stapleton. Um, and he just did it just because. And I was just looking at this the other day. His graboid like has way too many tentacles, which
Right.
I take that as him being like, oh no, it's not a graboid, that's a braboid. That's not
Yeah.
like the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's still really good. Like it takes place in perfection. Like it actually says on
Wow.
a like perfection.
Nice.
Um and yeah, I don't know. Like I'll take any kind of Tremor stuff, especially if a fan's making it. It's like here's some money. Please go make some more. I would
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, a friend of
Yeah.
mine actually made these Graboid outbreak response stickers. I put them on my
Brilliant.
car. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make this a happier one than we were last time, and we're already off to a great start. So this is good. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Would you do an audiobook of Seeking Perfection?
Yes.
Would you read it?
Well, sort of.
Ooh.
We mentioned AI.
Oh, don't.
No,
I
well. I have been dabbling, experimenting with a thing called 11 Labs, which I tried last month. And I mean, it all sounds ridiculous when I say it. I mean, it's true, but it sounds like it's the idea that it would be as good as my voice is hard to believe. But honestly, I played some audio to my mum a few weeks ago, and I said, "What do you think of that? Who's that?" And she said, "Well, it's you." And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "It's my one of my colleagues at work." And they were like, "Well, that's you, isn't it?" And I was like, "No, well, it is me. It was my audio, but it so basically it sounds just like me." And the thing is, I did look into recently recording audiobooks, and I got some advice from an audio. In fact, it was the chap that recorded the audio, the Tremors commentaries,
Oh, okay.
the Blu-rays. And I asked him, I said, do you ever do audiobooks? And he says, well, they're too expensive for most people. They cost thousands of pounds. He says, if you do it yourself, what you need to do, and I'm sure there's different ways of doing it, but he says you need to have your microphone, go into a quiet room, read one page, stop, upload it to your computer. I mean, probably in your computer, but he says, Ed, listen back to that page, then record the second page. And then when you finish that, go back and listen to it again. Because he says, if you leave it all the way till the end, uh, it'll take ages trying to find things. But the problem with that is, of course, to then there's 350 pages or something in this book, isn't there?
Yeah.
And sorry, no, 285 in total. Um, and how long would that take me to listen to read every chapter, audit? So the answer is I'm thinking about it, because I would only do it if it sounded great, like me, or someone else completely different, I suppose. But I mean so I don't know. I don't have an answer at the moment, because now I'm thinking about it. Maybe people would have, because it's an American film, maybe people would prefer an American accent. I don't know.
Oh my god. I mean, I get that. However, I only when I read this book, I just hear it in your accent. I think it's just because I
Well, honestly,
listen.
I mean, I've said it to you already 3 times, but yeah, it sounds just like me. And I listened back to it 50 times thinking this was just a snippet, but I was listening back to it thinking that's incredible. It's saying words that I did. So obviously recorded this. What you meant to do is upload about 3 hours of very high quality audio. So I thought if I've done it in a recording studio, then it takes out a lot of background noise and things. And then you need to edit the audio for any little mistakes. So there's even just breathing in, it repeats it sometimes in the AI. So you need to try and cut out little ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff. But no, just when I listened back to it, it was incredible, and I was so happy with it. I thought that because there's me recording things about underground monsters and the desert and creature effect, and then I put it in and I played back some of my Highlander book, and it's talking about the Tower of London and people with swords, and I don't mention the word sword, of course, in my Tremors commentary or Tower of London, and just the way that it knows, it's so clever. So I mean, I appreciate a lot of people are dubious about it, and I wrote that a new newsletter the other day, and I almost mentioned I was dabbling with AI, and I thought people are going to hate me for this, but the reason that was actually this is maybe a longer answer than you were hoping for, but with my
Oh, I love
Highlander,
it.
well, with the Highlander book, that was the one I originally started looking into first because my publisher couldn't afford to do an audiobook because he says it costs so much money to do it. You get so many little money back. He gave me the rights back. So I've got these rights. And of course, I'm not saying he's rich at all, of course, but he, I don't know, he's got more going on. In theory, I'm sure he's got more money than me anyway. And he can't afford to do it. How can I afford to do it? And so if I sit at a microphone for days recording, that means I can't work on other things as well, and so it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. But so I think people will be saying might say, well, if it's AI, then I don't want to listen to it. You've taken the job away from someone who, like an actor, maybe who would read it. And I was like, well, they wouldn't have got the money anyway because nobody could afford them. So I get the point you're making, but at the same time, I can make money out of are you saying I shouldn't be allowed to make money? I'm not, I mean, nobody's actually saying it to me. So I'm now having a fight with myself here. Are you saying I can't do that? No, I'm not saying that. What you should say. No, but yeah. So it's a long, long, long answer to say I think it might happen. But with the Tremors book, it's old now. It's 10 years old. So if I was going to do it, I think I would have to do a new version. So
Oops, that sucks. I guess you just have to make a new version of it.
well, I
Whoopsie.
would like to. I would actually like to. I can't remember what I said to you last time. I think I maybe said no, but
You were iffy. You told me to do it.
yeah, no, I would. I mean, I would love to, but it's just finding the time. I mean,
Oh yeah.
everything, of course, comes down to time. I mean, you're doing your podcast. This is taking you. This is your Saturday. It takes you time, and everything takes time. So and that's the thing with the audio version. I just think, can I justify that time to make back maybe not much money? What if I make £100? It would cost me hundreds. If I was to, get someone to record it, you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Anyway, we'll see. But I would like to,
No,
and I would like to do a new version of the book, but it's just time again. So
yeah. No, that was an interesting answer. Honestly, if I were, I wouldn't. As much as I'd love an audiobook of Tremors, you should do the AI one of your Highlander and local hero books because they're Scottish. So like that's already
yeah,
like that that fits that theme or whatever. If you need an opposing opinion, I think that's a great idea. I'm not too keen on AI either, but if it's one of those like, here's a smaller publisher like making their own books or whatever, and you're not going to get an audio book anyway because of cost, then it's like
yes, yes,
why not just like farm it out a little bit? Like there you go, then that's
yeah.
done because no one was going to get that money anyway.
Well, that's it. That's it. And a lot of some of the bigger publishers now are using AI for audiobooks, but for foreign translations, because they maybe can't justify the costs. Again, it comes back to cost. And if you were to say, yeah, we can do a German and a French and a Italian or whatever for a fraction of the price, and they make money so they can invest in new books and the author makes money, or we're not going to do them at all and nobody makes money. It's just weighing that up, I think, and saying, well, and a lot of backlist titles, there's talk of a lot of backlist books. So, books like, I mean, this is a terrible example because there's loads of them, but Sherlock Holmes, for example, something that from that period or from any time that maybe didn't sell that well, or again, a publisher just can't justify spending that money on a new audiobook. They can now say, well, actually, it's going to cost us a couple of £100, or
I'm into it.
So I think I'm not. I don't. I mean, I think AI, of course, is a huge concern, and I think that's a whole other discussion, isn't it? But I do think there are some. I think it's a good reason, and even if it's just for people who, audiobooks for the blind, or whatever, if I just think that just even people being able to sort of democratize that and say, well, maybe there's only, and this is, again, it's a whole other discussion, but what if there's a book that people enjoy and nobody else wants the audiobook but them, and they can press a button and pay $20? I don't know, but I think everything's changing, isn't it? We're just really at the start of this AI thing.
I asked because
Yeah.
I actually just in the last month, for like the first time ever, I've listened to 3 audiobooks. I've never listened to an audiobook before, and I listened to one. I fell in love with the format, and I was like, let me do another one, and then a third one, and it was just like, because I love reading, and it sucks I don't have the time that I want to actually like sit down and read. Like it is such a sit here and start doing it thing.
Yeah.
But the audiobook is great for like, oh boom, I'm at work, pop this on, and instantly now I get to read a whole book or
It's
whatever.
brilliant. Yeah. I love audiobooks.
His Ragged Company by Rance D. Denton was like I bought the book, but then it was like, oh, there's an audiobook. Yes, and it was great. And actually, the guy that read it too was fantastic with all the voices he did and everything.
Great.
But it was just like it's just a new format, and I was like, oh man, I gotta ask that question, and that was. Please don't feel bad. That was a great long answer, and no, I know I see it where you're like, no, I'm going too long. It's like, no, please, just you're fine. Just
Well, I
we
think at
don't
the
have.
moment as well, though, I think we're still in the time when people have to kind of justify it a little bit, because I think that's why I didn't mention it in my newsletter. I mean, most people couldn't care less when they read it, I'm sure, but I just sort of thought, I know there's some people that are a little bit funny about it, and I think you have to kind of explain so much these days, about it. But in a few years' time, you won't. I think most things, virtually everything that we're worried about just now, will not be as bad as people think. And it'll just be like, it's just the internet, really, isn't it? It'll be like that, where we don't even think about it now. Whereas back then, people were probably, I mean, remember the whole encyclopedia thing? It was like, well, what will people do and sell encyclopedias? Because if the internet's here, why would you need those? And it's like, well, I don't know the answer to that, but people,
I
I'm
would.
sure are there still encyclopedias? I don't know, actually. Maybe there are still, I'm sure everything you can buy super special limited edition. So,
I
um,
buy them at thrift stores and consignment shops just cause or whatever. So I got a stack
right.
over there.
That's
But
something I've not thought of in the last 30 years about the encyclopedia industry, but
well,
you've
I
got
get
me.
no, I get it. Where it's just like, oh, yeah, you're taking away that job, but it's like, yeah, but like then all these other people get to learn easier. So like, what's your like? Oh, there's no encyclopedia salesman, or the population as a whole gets smarter. Like, which one like do you take
Yeah.
here?
And I wonder as well, I'm guessing if you're a smart entrepreneurial audiobook actor, vocal actor, I mean, I'm sure it's happening already, so I don't think this is unusual. But with this 11 Labs tool, you can license your voice.
Oh,
So So I think not that I would want to do that because you never know where it's going to end up. But I think if you were clever, but then, yeah, someone could clone, could record, not that anyone's going to, hopefully, but you could download the audio from my commentaries and do all this yourself. So I suppose the point I was making is if you're an audiobook narrator, you record your own voice and you maybe say to people, you can use my voice slightly cheaper, it'd be quicker this way. I don't quite know where I'm going with that, but I think if it sounds almost identical, then I think licensing your voice out to do more things kind of makes sense. You would have ownership of your voice, wouldn't you? You'd be like, well, okay, I can only do one audiobook a month. This way I could do 10 a month. People know my voice. I'm quite well known. So give me 70% of what I would have charged you because it's pre-recorded. I don't know, but I can't see why would you not do that? Because you're making more money that way and you're still keeping the quality control. Anyway, we're going way off track.
I think no, that was right. We're on the choo-choo train of this.
Yeah.
And I always think that like
bring us back to Tremors.
It doesn't matter how you consume something. Like it always like people will want if they like it. If you this is where the AI conversation. If you do a good enough job with what you're doing, then people will be like, "Oh, that's good. I want more of it." And then they'll go and find it in other places. Actually, to that point, the guy that wrote his Ragged Company, it was such a good book. He had a podcast, and I was like, "Oh, I want to like listen to more of this author's voice." And now I'm like on episode 20 of the Quarantine Book Club with him and his brother, and I'm just like, brilliant. It's just like, oh, if you like something, and if someone's good at it, then oh, hey, I listened to the Highlander book by Jonathan Melville, but oh, he's got a local hero in a Tremors book. Oh, okay, like let me check those out, and maybe I'll buy it, and then cool, I'll have him sign it too, and like send it to him, and he'll like, I don't know, this is that's the I've turned your seeking perfection into I know everybody else does that, but just getting everybody to sign it, and I imagine that's the
that's same as mine. I've got mine here.
Oh wow. You got legit notes in yours. Oh, cool, man.
I think Kevin Bacon's in this one, but I can't remember what his signature looks like. It might be that one there. I'm not sure. Is that Kevin Bacon?
There's a B. Actually, that looked like a B. I'm gonna say yes.
It could be. Yeah, no, it's Lisa Romanoff.
Yep.
SS Wilson. Yeah. Grady. We've got Grady from Tremors 2 in here.
Yeah, because he was at your book signing.
Yes.
The one you did in Burbank. Yes.
That's right.
So there would be
Ron Underwood.
Javier Mulero.
Yeah. Conrad Bachman is in there. Ron Underwood, yeah, as I said. So it'd be great to get more autographs in there sometime. But they don't do many Tremors events in Scotland, sadly, in the UK.
Send me your book, and I'll promise that I'll take it around Tremors Fest, and I'll be like, John needs you to sign it. I would. Honestly, and this is just a total aside.
I know you would.
If you wanted to send me a bunch of books, I would sell them for you at Tremors Fest, just to be like, here, these are everybody, all the fans. There's 150 of you. Buy like at least 75 copies of this, and go.
Well, we should talk about that because I can easily get them printed in the US, and
I like seriously would, and I am doing so much with like way more than I was last year with Tremors Fest. So I would be like happy to help, and I actually have you to blame for. I have this list over here. This is really good, like because everybody else was like just not having an easy time trying to get people to Tremors Fest, and I was like, oh, John taught me how to do this, and I just like went through, and like this is all the people that I contacted for Tremors Fest.
Oh wow, yeah,
like just went to town. And I was like, well, John said IMDb Pro, and I did. And it was IMDb Pro, LinkedIn, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, and I think nobody has Tumblr or TikTok, but but I did. I
Yeah, no,
just
well
like
done. Yeah.
uh, just went through that, and I have like 100% you to thank for that. I would. Finn Carter's going to be on the show soon enough. Actually, Mike Malone,
Wow.
who was the set dresser for Tremors 1 and Tremors 2, is coming on next week. Charlotte Stewart wants to come on. I need to really get a time for her. I'm bad on that. But it's all your fault, man. I got everybody but Kevin Bacon. Literally. Like, even
Well,
the Tremors pilot people, everybody but Kevin Bacon. And really, his is one that I have all of his contact information. I have just let it sit because I'm just like, I just don't know. I've even got Reba. I've talked to Reba. It's like Kevin is just sitting over there, just like, I just don't know how to approach him yet because I really
yeah.
want to reel the big fish as it is.
Well, it took me a long time. I think, yeah, for me it was trying once and then just trying a few times. It took a long time, it took a couple of years, I think. He's a busy guy as well. That's the thing. He's always I'll watch a trailer and there he is in another film,
Yeah,
it's
there's Maxine or Triple X or yeah, some horror movie I just saw him in a trailer. I
yeah.
was like, way to go, Kevin! Just like keep up that work and such.
I
But I
thought I,
got
I would actually go and see that at the cinema just because Kevin's in it. It's I mean it looks a great okay film anyway, but I think he looked brilliant in it. I think he's just getting as he's the older he's getting, he's just becoming more of that character actor
he's
look about
becoming
him.
Fred Ward. Like that's what I like see more and more is like he's like slowly turning into Fred Ward like as time goes on in like a really good way. Like
Yeah.
like I get
No,
that
he's
vibe.
such he's just yeah, it's just great seeing him well that he's still working and just that he's taken all these such interesting roles.
Oh yeah, he always has. Like that's my
Yeah,
like
true.
bad guy or good guy. Okay. Oh man. Okay. I want to ask that question, but I don't, and I'll come back to it. Oh man, I do. Nope. Don't. Not yet. Um. Actually, no. We were just talking about AI. How do we get Octavio's book translated? Like, how do we get like an English version of that? Like, you and I both want it. Like, how's like you just said AI, and now that's where like my brain's thinking of it, where it's just like,
Well, I think no, I do think using a translator um who is comfortable with AI is going to be the cheaper way. I think there are probably people, almost certainly people doing it. I mean, I've read bits and pieces online. I've not looked into it myself. But again, it's that thing of just saying, the first draft might be via AI, which just cuts down some of the costs. But I think you do need a human involved because I think just the way that anything, you see Google translating sometimes and it doesn't quite get it right. But I think it probably gets 90, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but you're probably talking from everything I've done, AI is usually very good, mostly. And it's probably 93% great, but it just needs a human to come in and go, no, that's not quite right. So,
your tense isn't right there, your clause isn't like the proper one,
yeah.
and just twist it around a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
All right.
totally. So, yeah. But I don't know. Um, yeah, but I suppose that if the rights are with his publisher, then it's whether they'd be willing to spend that money, I suppose, just now.
I gotta ask him that. That's a good one. Thank you. So here's
Yeah.
one. What do you think is the most important thing in a Tremors movie?
Um, well, I think the characters and the interactions with the characters are the main thing, really. I think. If you don't have interesting characters making interesting choices, then it's just monsters in the ground and killing people, and that's not as
That's Tremors 5, 6, 7.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think the more interesting those characters and those interactions are. This is why I'm always going on, and I have been for the last 10 years about the those character actors and just that town of perfection feeling so
Lived in.
um lived in and I just you switch on, you start watching that film and you meet actually Octavio, you maybe know, he asked me to write a little bit for the start of his book about Burt
Oh,
Gummer, a little bit about Burt, really. So I kind of looked at it again just from Burt's perspective. And when we and I'm probably messing up what I said, but but I sort of realized that when the film starts and we meet Burt Gummer, the adventure is kind of just starting for everyone else. But it's like the end of the story for Burt in a way, because he's been waiting for this sort of thing all his life, you know. So for him, he's at a totally different stage of his life than everyone else. And I'd not really thought of it like that before. It was always just like,
Yeah,
well, everyone,
that's a good perspective.
you
Got
know,
that.
what was going on in his head when he finally realized that everything he'd been preparing for was actually happening? You know, he must have been over the moon. And everyone else is like, "Oh my God, it's creepy." But of course, that's the brilliant conceit of the film, that actually it's he can't see the baddies. You know, he knows they're there, but he can't see them. Where he's been always waiting, I suppose, for people to come along, like the eminent domain and the soldiers coming in and surrounding him. And then it turns out they actually do. You know, it happens, but he can't see anything, and it's yeah. So, what was the question?
No. And what? And you answered it actually. That's where. Like, what's the most important thing in a Tremors
Oh
movie?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
So, it was just back to that thing of yeah, when we meet the characters, it's just that very hot little town. You know, everybody's hot and drinking beers, and imagine the smell in that place. People are drinking beers and
oh, what
uh
does Chang smell like? Oh my god.
yeah, not nice, I think.
Oh.
But
And I've been in
yeah,
plenty of those general stores in America, and there's like why am I going to say twang? Like there's a tang is what I was going for. There's a
yeah,
tang in the air. Like you can smell floorboards and cleaning
yeah.
solutions, but then the dust and everything. Like ooh, that's and there's
Yeah, the
literally a jug
dust.
too.
That
So
dust
like
must
you'd be getting
the sand must just get everywhere, and and you can it's like you can see that on the screen. You can feel that, you know. I think so. Yeah, no, it's just that lived in quality, but definitely the characters. It's just where those 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 poor sequels just don't quite. Yeah, I think I seem to remember the most recent one. That was Shrieker Island, wasn't it? That was the last one. I think it was okay with the English actress whose name was going up my head, Caroline Langrish. Um, I think there was something quite. I think she was quite good. I think she's quite a good actress anyway.
her and Bert. There was a good. I
Yeah,
liked
I should watch
that
that
part.
again actually. And the bad guy in it was quite. He was actually quite scenery chewing, and
Oh, Richard
for some
Brake
reason
kills that.
that film stands out as being the best one in some ways, but it isn't with Bert's character. I think. Anyway,
No,
I don't know.
I actually always say like there's actually two really good movies there. Like there's a
Hmm.
movie about like a bunch of hunters getting predator styled by a graboid, and that's its own movie. Like that's its own great movie. It should have been there. And then there's this other movie about Burt Gummer coming to grips with his mortality and his past, and then being chased by a graboid. But
Yeah.
when they smash them together, you only get half and half of each, and it's just kind of like, you could have split those apart and gotten more movies than just
Yeah.
that, but you chose not to. Um,
Yeah.
and honestly, you
Yeah.
just said like Richard Brake and Carolyn Langrishe are exactly that point of just like, oh, these are like good characters doing things, but you're not giving them the proper time to shine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they're
I actually
good.
passed Caroline. It is minor. But I passed Caroline Langrish once long before Tremors. She was in Edinburgh doing a show because she was in a TV show here called Lovejoy for a couple of years, and so I knew her from that. And then I passed her in the street, and I so nearly said to her, "I enjoyed you in Lovejoy," but I didn't. So anyway, that's my connection to other connection to Tremors 7
Seven.
was
It's okay. I've actually been like I really want the people from Tremors 5, 6, and 7 at Tremors Fest. Because like, hey, it's not their fault what Universal did.
no, no, exactly.
They tried their best, and I always say that like, hey, I'm not going to blame actors or crew for anything. Like they put in a good hard
Yeah,
day's work and stuff. But I've been really sad because like most of them are in South Africa or Thailand. So like trying to get all the way over to America is just next to impossible. And I'm like, so I got to talk to John, and we got to have an international Tremors Fest in Scotland. So it's just a little bit closer for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's hoping. Knock on that
Yeah.
wood. Right. Okay. I got. I don't want to do all my questions. I'm just like, what's my best ones? What am I loving here? Um. Okay. Okay. This is one that has it's slight tremors. What draws you to the sci-fi genre? Like, I haven't watched Local Hero, but I assume maybe there's some sci-fi in it. I could be wrong, but I'm looking at Seeking Perfection and Kind of Magic, and then knowing your love of Doctor Who, and actually just reading your intro was one, talking about ET and Ghostbusters and Back to the Future, and like, what draws you personally to the sci-fi genre?
I mean, I think it's less about being attracted to the genre and just more being attracted to the production, the film or the TV show. I think. I mean, yeah, Back to the Future. What was great to me about that was the fun. I just remember that I don't know if it's true. I mean, it feels like that film, or maybe E.T. was one of those. Feels like it was the film that made me a film fan. Really, Back to the Future is the one I really remember out of all of them, just being hugely entertained by it at the time. And but Ghostbusters is. I mean, I mentioned those films, Ghostbusters and
Indiana
E.T.
Jones.
and Indiana Jones movies. I think it's just the fun of them, the excitement. Like last night, I was sitting in front of the TV and wanted to watch something, and I wanted to put on Con Air because it's just hugely entertaining. Is it a good film? Well, I think it is a good film, but it's not Citizen Kane, but it's fun. And I think for me, there's probably something in being entertained, as in like I love the Mission Impossible movies because they're good fun and they don't take themselves too seriously either. They sort of slightly have their tongue in cheek. They know that they're ridiculous films, but at the same time they're serious about the plot. And if someone dies, it's a serious thing. But so I think for me there's probably, and I think that's why with Tremors I'm so drawn to it. Partly it's the humor, and I just think that is just the perfect tone. Wherever that tone is, I love it. And I think
Fun,
Highlander is kind of
like fun.
similar in that it's ridiculous and it knows it's ridiculous, and it's this mashup of the sci-fi and the fantasy and romance and adventure. So I don't know. I it's so no. I think, and I love things like Battlestar Galactica, the new one, but I don't like something like The Expanse. I tried to watch, I just couldn't quite get into it. So I mean, that's just one thing, but I don't. So I don't go out of my way just to watch sci-fi, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. And
Sci
but if it,
fun is what you want. Sci fun. That's your.
I think so. At the same time, I love aliens, and but I mean, there's some humor, and I mean, a lot of these things, of course, don't they? A lot of films, the best ones, I think, have even a black humor to them and black comedy, and I think Aliens even is a bit like that. There's humor in there, and but a hell of a lot of nastiness. And I think it's good to have the lightness, the lightness in there as well. And then it kind of tricks you into then you get the horror, and then you're like,
You
oh
let your
God, I
guard
wasn't
down.
expecting that. And that's of course what Tremors does so well, and that you're lulled in with the sort of humor and the ridiculousness of that, the Edgar up the pole, and you're like, what's this crazy stuff? And then you get some real, like the poor Doc, Doc and his wife, and that's really quite harsh, isn't it? That's quite nasty stuff.
People will be like, Tremors isn't a horror movie, and I will literally just like show that clip.
Yeah,
Like, it's
that
not a horror
car with the
movie.
car going up and the lights you're like, oh
Like,
man, that's that poor couple that were just building their home and now they're dead. Yeah. So
like that is a horror movie,
yeah,
man. Like, that is not. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about like that scene right there is full cement on like horror. And yeah,
yeah,
honestly, I
yeah.
love what you said about fun. Like that's I. It's not all movies, I enjoyed Oppenheimer. That wasn't like fun. But
Hmm.
if I'm gonna pick a movie and I'm gonna sit down on a if it's a Saturday or anything, just like that likes to be fun. Mine is Fast and the Furious. I know that those are not like great movies. I know that's not high cinema, but for the hour or two that I'm watching it, I care a lot about cars all of a sudden, and I'm double
Yeah.
shifting and not granny clutching. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't know. It speaks to me just like the ridiculousness, but it's got to be fun. It's got to have that fun in it, or
Yeah. I mean, I can't. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at what I've got on the shelf, but I mean, yeah, of course, not everything is like that, but like I enjoy Seven, and you
yeah.
know, I'm not saying that's, but there's possibly some humor in there. I just haven't seen it for a while, but anyway, yeah. So no, it's less sci-fi and just more, yeah, as you say, sci fun. I like that. Or
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna
um,
write that down. Or sci fun or fun to see. That would be my other one.
yeah,
I'm bad that way.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, John, and I have to say, you're giving great answers to questions. I know you're probably just as self conscious as I am about it, but you're doing
Thank you,
fantastic.
thank you.
No, thank you. And again, I'm trying to go through here quick. I don't want to keep you up for too long. I know you got your Taylor Swift concert you need to go to.
Oh, of
You got
course,
those
yeah, yeah,
tickets, front row VIP, baby.
yeah.
Okay, okay, I got to. Okay, like, please forgive me for this question. All
Oh
right,
dear.
this is just
Right.
something I've been asking a lot of people lately. I talk about it on my show a lot, and I just because it's something that the fandom gets really upset about, and I just like if I saw Steve again, I would ask Steve this question: what do you think about the idea that Val and Earl might be a couple of some sort? And
Uh,
I'll start. I'll give you some lead in. For me, I don't like. I see why. I always laugh that when Val and Earl and Heather and Bert first see each other in the movie, they're like two old married couples. Like that's like there's a little not actually, but you're like the way that everybody bickers and argues, and Heather and Earl both like calm down their respective spouses. There's just this like that there, or whatever. And I see some points to it. And actually, there's a great poster behind me that a friend of mine sent me of Val and Earl in Tremors 2. Actually, I got to pull it down because it's so cool. Hold on. Oh my God. Because the original Tremors 2 had Val and Earl in it. And they actually sent me this like Val and Earl in the back of the truck, like with the
yeah,
umbrellas and the graboid goo.
brilliant. Yeah.
Um, so I don't personally subscribe to it. I see it, but it's not my thing. But what do you think? That's
Well,
the other.
well, to be honest, it's not something I'd ever considered, and I don't think that the films really point to that being a thing. I mean, it's 2024, so if they're still pals today, then I don't know. I don't know. I've never seen that reference in the film, so I can't really say I would believe it as a thing, but you never know.
Like, it's not something I came up with. It's just something I've seen and people talk about, and it's just like, okay, cool. I gotta ask the other guy that knows everything about Tremors. Like,
If it makes if it makes them happy, as long as they're not hurting anybody.
next time you watch it, just ask yourself, why are they sleeping in the back of a truck together all
Yeah.
the time? um, I just had to. So I was reading in your A Kind of Magic book, which go out and buy A Kind of Magic by Jonathan Melville. I swear I'm not just doing that to plug. It was definitely interesting. I need to watch Highlander. But you were talking about how like it's strange that Highlander is this really weird little film um, with some less than Tremors successful sequels, we'll say, and yet somehow it still draws people to Scotland. And there's this actually, I had to literally write it down where fans going to please correct my pronunciation on this. The Aelian Donan Castle. How do I say that?
Well, it's pronounced Elon Donan.
Elan, Elan, the Elan Donan Castle.
Yeah.
Um, and then the beach nearby, just to run and do the Connor McLeod running. Why is it? And you can even like tie that back to Highlander. Why is it that fans still when it comes to Tremors, are trying to find perfection. Like you got to go see the boulder. You got to go see the boulder that they hung out on. And where's the town located? Why is that like? why is that something as fans that we just like gotta go and like I do it too. I
I don't
don't know
know.
why. So that's my like I would love to like go like hang out on the boulder.
Well, I think there's maybe something in we all probably would quite like our favorite films to be real, to be true stories. And I guess by going to visit the places they were made, you're sort of it's one step closer to your favorite thing being real. Like in Local Hero, they filmed that in a little village. It's barely a village. It's tiny. It's so small. It's like one street with a few houses on it, a bit like Perfection, actually. And it's called Pennon. And I went there last year. I've been a couple of times now, and it just looks exact. It's still the same as it was 40 years ago, and it's amazing just walking down that street where the car came down the hill and round the corner, and standing outside where they all everything happened, and so you're actually in the film really. So I think it's that really. I think part of it is we maybe want to be in the films in the film that we love with the people that we love in them. I mean, yeah, I think at a subconscious level, that's possibly part of it. And yeah, it's just nice to go where all your favorite actors were at the same time, so to think, oh, did they sit on this seat? Did they go into this pub? And um, yeah,
No, that was actually I needed another perspective on that. That was actually a really beautiful answer, John. Uh,
thank you.
that's part of like we're doing the second Tremors Fest this year in Santa Fe, but I would love for the 31st anniversary, third annual to be in Lone Pine. And I'm already talking to Robert Sigmund out there, the Lone Pine Museum director, just about like, hey, how do we like get this to happen
Yeah,
to walk the streets where everything like it's not obviously Lone Pine's not in the movie or whatever, but just to go through the streets and go to the restaurants and the bars and the hotels that everybody else was there and just
yeah.
like feel that in there because you can't obviously go through Perfection anymore because it's no longer there. But that
Oh, I'd love to go and visit the well, Lone Pine would be really cool, and also just
oh,
just that area and see it. But Santa Fe, I'd love to come out to Santa Fe. It's just I would be looking into it. It's just so difficult and so expensive from the UK. I don't know what it's like in America, but from here,
it's
it's obviously you're talking thousands really if you want to fly out and then stay out there for a week or two. And that's why
well, your hotel.
I need to do the audiobook and then sell that and then get the money. And
Like I said, I would happily like we can talk about it later. I would happily sell some books for you or whatever, just because it's like
cheers.
just guy. Like you don't need to listen to me. Like just read this dude's book. Also, he has an audio book over here too. So like check them both out.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but that's yeah. And again, Lone Pine, that would be my like. And I can tell everybody else wants to go back there. Ben and Tom and Alec and Charlotte, like everybody's just like, yeah, no, to go back to where it was originally made would be great.
Maybe
Um,
Kevin would be up for that. Maybe that's a way
ooh,
to open the discussion with Kevin by saying, "Would you like to be guest of?" I mean, we want to
he
have
would
Bert
be.
Michael
He
as the
would
guest
be.
of honor, but everyone's a guest of honor, really. So,
Oh, I know.
but yeah,
No, my
reuniting them. Yeah,
would be my ace in the hole for trying to get Kevin is like, and I'm gonna do it after I like actually talk to Finn. Actually, I did. I had a 2.5 hour conversation with her. Like, I just called her up a month ago, and it was a beautiful conversation, and she wants to be on the show, and it's like, yeah. So like, once I get Finn and I have her on the podcast, I'm just gonna be like, hey, Kevin, that girl that you made out with, like, is gonna be at Tremors Fest. I hate saying it like that, but that's the best way to be. Your paramour is going to be at Tremors Fest, like so. Maybe you should be there too. Um, so that's my sneaky little way of doing it. Uh,
nice.
I'm trying my best, John. Like, there's nobody else doing it, so somebody's got to like do what we can with what we got,
Yeah,
as they
yeah, yeah.
say. Mm, I love how one of my notes here is: do you ever worry about being overly invasive, like when you're asking questions and stuff? Which is a great time for me to ask this question. To just feel, does it like in interviewing and stuff, like does that ever like do you ever worry about that? Like I do. Like I wrote all these out. It's just like at what point is this
No,
encroaching into like other
no,
people's
I don't.
lives?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's I mean, most of the things I'm asking about are meant to be, I mean, I'm looking for the positive side of everything, really. It's not meant to be I don't ever ask about scandalous things that went on in the hotels or no, nothing like that. So I think I'm always pretty much on the right side of not being uncomfortably weird with
Well,
questions. I don't know, but I don't think so. And I think you can sort of judge if somebody doesn't want to talk about things or they change the subject. But um, so no, I don't think so. Maybe that's a personal flaw. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, oh, it's everything. But usually, you're the same. You write down all your questions, and I'm the same. You tend to sometimes you go off topic a bit, but your questions are aimed at are designed to be just to get new information. It's not that you're not like, how can I trick someone or how can I be ask something that's too personal. I don't think they would tell you anything too personal. I mean, yeah, I mean, it depends what people tell you as well. I mean, when I did the local hero book, so one of the actors in there, John Gordon Sinclair is his name, and he was the star of a film called Gregory's Girl, which you have to
oh yeah,
see as well. If you've not seen Local Hero, you have to see Gregory's Girl. It's a fantastic film. And
and Gregory's two girls. I was actually just
well,
reading that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
don't watch Two Girls. That's not very good.
Sorry,
But
sorry.
but the first one is a proper classic. Not just a Scottish classic, but it's uh, but anyway. So he was the star of this film, and it was a very popular film. And then in Local Hero, he's in it, but barely in it, and it was filmed after Gregory's Girl. So he has maybe one line in it. And I always remember just thinking, how strange that this guy went from being the star of Bill Forsyth's one film, and then his next film, same director, he's in it, he gets one sentence, one line. And I kind of asked him about that at the time, and he was very open about it and just said, he felt a bit uncomfortable at the time. He was a bit, I don't know if he used the word sad, but he realized that he wasn't the center of attention anymore. And he had been in the previous film because he was the star. And then he came up to this one and he kind of was doing it as a bit of a favor anyway. So it was never really planned to be a big part. But I think to go from being the star to then not being the star within the space of one film, I always just thought so. He kind of opens up a little bit about that. And that wasn't something I pushed him on. But I just thought it was a really nice moment to have that in there, I think. And how I don't know how many people read the book. It's my publisher knows how many sales there have been. I probably could find out. It's a few thousand, but I like to think that that moments like that are special for fans. And I think it's more that it's not so much intrusive as just honest and um, you know, you're getting I like to think I can sometimes ask those questions that other people would like to ask. Of course, that's part of the point, isn't it? And I think it's watching something enough times that you can then hopefully come up with good questions that no one else has thought of asking. Um, and one of those is, well, what was it? What did it feel like being the star and now you're not the star? But I don't have asked it quite like that. But
But he
um,
divulged that. That's where, for me, I don't even know if it's
yeah,
information. We talked last time about like when you talked to Tony Gennaro and Marcia Strassman, and then like losing them immediately afterwards, and then you were even like just that. I don't even think it was particular advice for me, but anyone in general, it's like if you have that feeling you want to do something, just go out and do it because you never know
yeah,
when the next Fred Ward happens, and you don't get that chance again. And for me, I with this show, with everything that I do with Tremors, like it's just like I want those people to like tell their story. I don't need anything out of it. I like if you want to come on a show, that's cool. For you to just like tell your stories and get that out there is such a it's the human thing. It's my like I mean you can tell by my background that I'm a strange person in the first place or whatever. But like it's just like I do. I just want people to share their stories and love each other. And that's actually like that whole like Tremors Fest thing. It started with one, and then I kept going like finding people because I was like, oh my god, I want all of you guys to like be at Tremors Fest and like talking and like sharing your stories and stuff or
yeah,
whatever. Because it was Alec and Tom like talking to them like back, and they didn't know I was talking to either one of them, and just being like, "Oh my god, I'd love to." And Alec was like, "Oh, I want to give like a presentation, and who else is going to be there? You got to get this other person and get there." And I'm just like, "Oh, this is like a whole family here, and like that should be like that's the." It's really weird. It's like I don't care about fans. Like I don't care about fans when it comes to that. It's like you guys are the ones that made this, and I want you to be happier than anybody else there,
Yeah.
and sharing your and
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
yeah, so it's thanks for also trying not to be invasive. Like I get that feeling, but it's sometimes you just want people to know that they're safe and open that story. I actually really like what you just said about the uh, John Gordon Sinclair, like going from being a star to not, and that wrestling with that pain. Like
Mm.
I often wonder if that's the thing that's happening between Kevin and Michael, is that Kevin has like oh, I wasn't in those movies, but like I don't know how to come back now on like good terms. And Michael's done such a great job. Like, do I just ask him to come back in? Like, where's that?
Mm.
I imagine that I can't even begin to understand that awkwardness, and I feel for it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We're
Yeah.
gonna wind down. I'm winding down because you got to get to that concert. Actually have one here. So we were talking about money before, and I have seen this number bandied about a lot on Google, on different Tremors wikis. Uh, Apparently, over the lifetime of Tremors, Tremors has made 514 million dollars and some odd change. Do you think that that number is real?
Is that all the sequels as well, and or just the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one?
yeah. That's everything.
I mean, don't know. Could be. Seems an awful lot, doesn't it? But it
It
must have made a hell
does.
of a lot of money. I mean, we know that the first one made so much money on video. I mean, I struggled to find all the numbers when I was doing the book. You just, I mean, sometimes I just, you probably read it and gone, he doesn't even mention the budget, or because I don't know.
You do mention the budget, but you can never get, and it's not just you, it's everybody else can never get a
Yeah,
solid box office. You can't
yeah,
get a box office for two, three, and four.
yeah.
We got plenty of budget, but then you can't. This is my own searching. There's plenty of box office for five, six, and seven, but it doesn't tell you what the budget is.
Right.
Then like I
Yeah.
just wonder.
So, I mean, why not? Let's say it's 500 million. It could be.
I talked to Finn. Actually, Finn said that like she was telling me that like she didn't make like hardly any money like on the first movie. Like she made her like regular day rate or whatever, but she has made like four times as much money just in the residuals since then, like
Right.
just from the first movie. And she's
Good.
like, that's allowed me to live whatever life I've needed to since then. And it's
Amazing.
like, what? They said that they don't make any money though. That was actually something I talked to Michelle Wilson, Steve's wife, and she was like getting angry at Tremors Fest about like, yeah, apparently Tremors has never made any money ever. Like it's done no profit. And she's just like going off on it. I'm like, really? What? She's like, no, they never say we make any money. And I'm like, so I know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
There's no way in
Yeah.
hell. Um, Honestly, I asked that question, John, because I need to see your confusion as well. I need to like, there's like maybe there's three or four of us who probably know everything that we do about Tremors, and I just needed to look in the eyes of the other guy and be like, $500 million. Does that sound right?
I mean, I can't even think where that would all come from, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been 30 plus years, isn't it? So,
Other franchises have made way more with less, so that's where I don't.
yeah.
I would buy it. Like that's my like.
Yeah,
I would buy it.
totally. Yeah.
Do you think that Tremors should ditch the character of Burt Gummer? Do you think? And this Michael Gross is great. I love Michael. I love the character Burt Gummer. And we were talking about that Burt Gummer fans thing last time. Like, do you think that that character has like partially weighed down how the rest of the movies can go? Like being ball and chained trapped to him.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think It's, it's. I mean,
I won't
the
look.
thing
I
is,
won't look.
it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I think we've sort of started this conversation a little bit earlier on talking about the reboot thing, and maybe I'm contradicting myself. I don't know, but at the same time as thinking we should have some of the older characters back, if you are trying to appeal to a younger audience or a newer audience, you probably want to have younger stars. I'm guessing. And I think with Tremors 5, you had Jamie Kennedy, who wasn't young, but I guess he was meant to be, I don't know, was he meant to be, I don't know. He's even too old. I don't know. I mean,
He
you
was
look at
like,
Doctor Who, we talked about Doctor Who, and that's obviously now called Series 1 again. Well, I think it is season 1, whatever, but that's been completely rebooted, but there's still the past in there. And that's a younger doctor and a younger companion. And I don't know. What's the answer to this one? I don't know. I think Bert should be in. I think Bert should be in there to hand it over. And I think they were sort of trying, weren't they, with Tremors 5? But I guess maybe even the TV series had a better idea with multiple characters supporting him, because of course he wasn't in 1 or 2 episodes, was he? And it still continued without him. So I've given you about 5 different answers, I think, there. But
it's a hard one, man, because he's so ingrained into Tremors. So that's where I say, like,
yeah, I
and
think,
I don't
yeah,
mean
I don't know. If I was, it would be interesting to sit down with a pen and paper and try and work out if someone said, right, plot. I mean, that could be one of your future episodes. Maybe you get different people to plan what would a new series or a new film look like, and everybody would have a different idea. But I guess it's that thing of there's probably something about Bert and the ultimate. I mean,
like
it's a difficult one because I remember speaking to Brent Maddock about this and about the TV series, and I think he admitted they got it wrong before it even started. Just that idea of keeping it in perfection, so difficult. Imagine they'd had to do 5 seasons with just in perfection. I mean, they were already starting to go off, I guess, to other towns with what was the Shrieker one? Shrieker
freaking
Night of
destroyed.
the Night
No,
Night of the
no
Shrieker,
Shrieker.
was it? Whichever one was in the with the guns, where they were shooting them,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
muskets and things. Um, but so I guess they were sort of starting to branch out because they probably realized there's only so much we could do in perfection. It's crazy, isn't it? When you've only got 6 or 7 characters, how do you get so? I think they did amazingly well with what they had, um, but then that other idea for was it after Tremors 2, they were talking about having Val and Earl going off and doing sort of X Files weird. That would have been weird as well, but I don't know.
It's that it goes back to that, like, the what would it have been conversation about the pilot. Let's just Mad Max it, and like these are all just different variations of someone telling a story. There's this weird mythos happening, and you can pick and choose your canon, which one you want. Do you want Thunderdome? Do you not want Thunderdome? I want Thunder. I love Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, but yeah, it's just one of those like, yeah, like I do. I
Yeah.
love Bert, but like, what would that? Should it be? Could it be? Most likely, it will be, because we both know how, like, it, unless if fingers crossed that Stampede gets it and they do it right, but maybe they won't, and then it's just a full stamp and reboot remake. Um, which I always ask too. Then, like, so who do you like recast as Burt Gummer? Like, who's your choice to like fill those shoes? I can never come up with anything.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal's as close as I ever get, but that's even like, I don't know, just because of the
Yeah.
mustache.
No, I don't know. It's yeah. I'm glad I'm not. But then Steve and Brent are so smart. They would come up with some amazing, hopefully some brilliant concept. And if they're not being rushed into it by like Sci-Fi Channel or something, they might have time to
Yeah,
come up with a
just
different
take your
idea.
time. And I know they're both writing. Actually, I know I actually had talked to them recently, and they're both still writing scripts that aren't Tremors related. So I know that
Yeah.
they're out there doing stuff. It's good. I'm gonna ask like one or two more. This has been great, John. I love you so much. Thank you.
Well, thanks for
Again,
having me.
by Seeking Perfection, the official guide to Tremors. It's the official guide. I'm still, I don't care. Uh, okay, so this is okay. This is just such a, and then this is again. I'm asking you all the questions that I know another Tremors expert would know and like ask questions to. So on the audition story, who do you believe, Michael or Ron? And I mean the audition story about um, Michael getting up on the desk and pretending to shoot monsters, and Ron loving it, and Michael being like, "I didn't do that. That didn't happen."
Um,
And they even told that story at Tremors Fest too, and like Michael still went like, "I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about." Like,
well, I think actors are prone to maybe exaggerating slightly um, for entertainment purposes. So I would not be surprised if Michael is slightly exaggerating. I mean, I think that's the way a lot of things happen, isn't it? Maybe he did step on a chair or stand in a chair or something, and it's just become this bigger thing. But at the same time, I mean, I've been watching. Maybe I mentioned this last time, but we've got this with the Pluto channel,
yes,
the Fast
yes,
channel, and we've got a
yes,
Family Ties channel on there, and I've had it on in the background. Did I say this last time? I can't.
yeah.
Did I
No,
mention
no,
it?
keep going. You did,
Yeah,
but
no, I mean
no, no.
it's a short story, but I don't remember Family Ties being on when I was young. Maybe it was in the UK, possibly. I don't know. But anyway, I don't remember it. So, but I've always known of it. So it's fun. I'll just put it on in the background sometimes, and it's a great show. It really is good. Um, and Michael, I've now finally got to see him properly doing his Stephen Keaton thing, and I didn't appreciate as much when I wrote the book how different he was from Bert. Of course I knew really, but I didn't really I hadn't just watched him.
You got to see it in front of
And
you. Like,
and, and so I can imagine as someone doing that role, trying to prove yourself that you're not Stephen Keaton, that you're an actor who has much more range. And so, I've said maybe he's exaggerating, but I can understand why he would do it. Because if he just went in and did the Stephen Keaton thing with a cap on, it wouldn't work. But what a great actor! I mean, I just love watching. It's just two different people, and I can't even imagine what it was like for viewers, for fans at the time to go who maybe were watching Family Ties for 5 years and then went to see Tremors, all five of them. But the people that did do that, it must have been quite a. But is that the guy? That can't be the guy from Family Ties, you
acting.
know?
Well, I had to ask it after what we just said about Burt Gummer because I think Michael is the reason that we still have Tremors, that we have a Tremors 7 at all. So like I just
Yeah,
want to be thankful for him
yeah, totally.
being out there. And actually, okay, I'm going to slide this one in, and then I'll ask one final one. Have you ever watched the movie Grabbers?
I have. Yes,
What do you think about Grabbers? I
I
know
enjoyed
it's Irish,
Grabbers.
not Scottish Tremors, but
Yeah, I mean, I've got an embarrassing story to tell about that, um,
oh, I
which
wasn't expecting that. Okay.
yeah, which might come back to haunt me. I don't know, but basically, I watched that film when it came out on DVD. So it must have come out. I don't know what 7 or 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. Let's say 9 or 10 years. Let's say 10 years ago. I can't remember. But anyway, I'd watched it, and there's the app called Letterboxd. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
And I reviewed it and I gave it 3 stars. And I said, um, I enjoyed this. I mean, I think the review's probably still up there. And I said, really enjoyed this film. It's not quite as good as Tremors, but then nothing is, something like that. And and I gave it 3 stars. And then I forgot all about it, just because it was just another film I'd watched. Some point in the future, at some point, sometime later, I was asked to. There was going to be a thing called Monster Fest or something like that in a little town called Bo'ness, which is near Edinburgh, but it's in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know why they were doing this festival, but good on them. And they said, we've got this guy called Kevin Lehane who wrote and directed Grabbers. And we're going to, no, he wrote Grabbers, I think. And he said, would you interview him on stage? And in front of an audience of people, you can see where this is going. And I said to him at one point, I think it was students, I think it was maybe school kids, and they were trying to interest them in maybe getting into film and TV and stuff. And I said to him, well, what's it like, when you put your work out there and then people review it and give it, say nasty things? And he said, well, you only give it 3 stars. And I just remember um, my stomach just fell away, and I just thought, oh my God, what did I do? Because I couldn't remember reviewing it on, I mean, it was like a 1 sentence review,
A little throwaway. Yeah,
totally throwaway, didn't mean anything by it. And 3 for me is actually good. If it's less than 3, I'll try not to rate it at all because I think it's not very nice. I'll just put nothing. Um, so it was just a slightly awkward situation then trying to say to him, well, I'm a huge Tremors fan because I've written the book, or I was about to write the book. I can't remember, and uh, and he was laughing, I think, but it was just a really, of all the people in the world that I reviewed, I was sitting on a stage with him. It was the weirdest thing. So yeah, to answer your question the quick way, yeah, yes, I have seen it. And
well, that reminds me.
If you're watching Kevin, I'm sorry, I should have given it 4 or 5 stars, but
Well, the fact that you're comparing it to Tremors is a half. That's a 3.5 at least. um,
yeah, it was a good little film. It's fun. It was, again, back to that fun thing. It was entertaining, wasn't it? There was not a Grabbers 2. It's never quite, there will be a fan base
grabbed on.
for it, which is great, but sadly it's kind of, yeah, just another film that came out and
It was just one. Everybody calls it Irish Tremors, and Ireland and Scotland are not the same thing. But it was just like, oh,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
what's that? What are your thoughts on that? So I had to draw the pin and do it over like that. Um, and then one last question, and then I have a half question at the end, and we'll finish.
Okay.
Like, this is so. What's your weirdest, most interesting, gossipiest thing that you learned writing Seeking Perfection?
Whoa.
You pick one of those two. Like it's just I just kind of slashed it while I was writing. And don't gotta name names either. Like it's just more like
Okay, well,
what's
I
that?
won't name I won't
Like
name names, but I remember, yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean much if I don't name names, but I don't want to name names. I mean, I just remember speaking to someone about the TV series, one of the actors or actresses, however you want to say it, but one of the people that were in it. And I don't know, they just mentioned in passing that one of the other actors was never around. They just did never know where they were. Um, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the only one that comes to mind, really, the start. But it was like, what were they up to the whole time? I don't know. They just, whenever they weren't on set, they just were somewhere else and nobody knew, which was a slightly odd thing. So that's one little thing.
it's
Uh,
Mexico, all bets are off. Well,
yeah. What was it? What was the question again? What was the?
it's like what's that like? What's the? I'll read it as I wrote it. What's the weirdest slash most interesting slash gossipiest thing you learned writing Seeking Perfection? I was trying to conglomerate those sort of ideas there.
I think I suppose really speaking to Kevin Bacon and just hearing his take on things was really interesting, or because of course we didn't know until it was kind of, that was, I feel, maybe the first interview that he gave where he said, I want
Positive
to,
things.
yeah, he said positive things and he wanted to go back to playing that. He always wondered what that character was doing 25 years later, because I was interviewing him just before the 25th anniversary. And I remember I would see, and I still sometimes do, but for a few years after that, I would see um, that being quoted in other places. And I think then he just started saying it in other interviews. So I think if I didn't get the first time, then it was very much. So at the time, I just remember hearing that and thinking, oh, that's really interesting. But of course, you then have that gap from when he says it in the interview to then the book coming out, which is 6 months or a year or whatever. So no, I just think hearing from him and how his son had watched Tremors 2.
Oh, I love that story. Oh, that is so fun. Sorry.
Yeah. And I can't remember exactly what he told me, and because there's been so many interviews since then, but
Oh, no,
but and I was
what his
quoting.
son said, like, uh, he asked his dad, "Hey, Dad, have you seen Tremors 2?" And Kevin's like, "No, I mean, no, I wasn't in Tremors 2." And his son's like, "Yeah, but Tremors 2 is awesome, Dad." Like,
Yeah.
he's just like, "Ah."
Yeah, he's like, yeah, but I wasn't in it. Yeah. But no, I suppose anything that Kevin said, I think was interesting, and that was really new because he just hadn't spoken about it. Um, so I feel really privileged that he spoke to me,
I would
because that
actually
would have
say
been
if
20, what year would that have been? 2014-ish, maybe. I think he told me that.
2014, yeah. I would actually say that your book is probably the reason that Kevin decided to give Tremors a chance again. Like I'll do that because again that if I love trying to find the origin of something, and that whole Kevin revisiting character stuff and like wanting to rewatch Tremors, like it all leads back to like your book. Everybody's quoting your book, but they never actually say it in the end. I always kind of get mad at that sometimes. Like reading an article, it's like I guess clearly from like Seeking Perfection, but it all like Kevin's turnaround on that, I think, came from him really asking himself some questions after you asked questions about what his time on that movie was. So good job, John. Woo! That was all. That was
Yeah,
all.
me. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I don't
Well,
know.
that's
Who
what I
knows?
had.
Who knows? Who knows? But I was really glad. I mean, I'm just showing off now, but when I got to meet him, that was amazing. The fact that
Yeah.
and the fact that he was happy to have a photo taken, because that was brilliant. And he said, and I gave him a copy, and he said, "Oh, I've already got one, but I'll take it anyway." So that would have been the one. I think I sent him one to his agent first time, and then you never know if these books get to them or they just bin them or whatever. But he said, "Oh, I've got one already, but hey." And you think, "Oh, that's cool." The idea that Kevin Bacon might have my book on his shelf, that's quite cool,
Yeah,
you
that is
know?
awesome, man.
You know,
I said,
but no, he was just such a nice guy, on the on the phone. I don't know if we did video. I don't think we did. I think it was maybe Zoom, Skype at the time. And yeah, but yeah, but just, I mean, really, just, I know it's not a good answer, but everybody that spoke to me, really, it was just, everyone was so nice. And this is, yeah, there just wasn't anything. Can't think of weird.
no, okay, okay. So I read a 2-star review of your book a while back. That
Right.
was like, no, no, no. It was because it was really dumb. I thought it was a
Just the
really dumb
scandal free. It was just a scandal free review.
fun, and I was just like,
Scandal
oh,
free. Yeah.
thing happened while they were making Tremors, and so then that makes this book boring. And I was like, or does it make it accurate? Like, it's not like the writer's fault that like nothing like really happened.
I
Like,
know. I know.
I
It's
think
funny,
that's
isn't it? You do. I mean, I do focus on the negative. I don't
you
obsess over
knew
them,
the
but
review. You knew the review was they said 2 stars.
yeah, no, totally. Because there's a couple, every, all my books, there's a something will pop up, and you just think, I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, and with the Highlander one, there's a woman who posted a review saying, I think it was a 2 star, and said, "This is, I don't remember it like this. I was a stand-in, and he didn't, on the set, and I don't remember it happening like this, but the author didn't speak to me." And you can't comment, you can't reply, because it just doesn't allow you to do that anymore. And I think, from what I remember, she wasn't even on IMDb listed.
Yeah.
I think she wasn't listed, or in the credits. Might have been in the credits, but not on IMDb. I mean, you don't. So I was thinking, well, I'm sorry, but I didn't know you existed, for one thing. And it's the
Plus, you're
same with. And someone else said, "Oh, he's given too many." I mean, this is loads of positives. This is the thing, but it's the negative ones you remember. And one of them said he doesn't he gives too much information about the CVs of the people he interviews. And that one does stick in my mind because a few times I've thought back over that. I thought, what did I say that was not needed? I mean, I don't put it in just for fun. It's like Russell Mulcahy, the director, had a huge career as a music video director. And I think to give the fact that Highlander looks a bit like a music video at times, you have to mention a bit of his background, and so it's little things like that. So yeah, that one as well. That one, and Amazon puts it to the top, don't they, as a sort of just to wind you up and say. And it's like, yeah, but people didn't tell me bad things. I was writing a book. I didn't want to get sued by anybody because I was self-publishing it. And so even if someone had told me something really scandalous, I probably wouldn't have put it in, to be honest, because I don't know. I just wouldn't want to get sued by anybody. And but nobody
And
did.
you like
And I think with the first film, as one of the people said, you know, it was a family set. You know, Ariana Richards was on there and her sister and Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick was pregnant. And, you know, people had I mean, you know, we all hear stories about things that happen on set and well, what happens off set stays off set. And who knows? Oh no, I think there was a couple, wasn't there? There was Alexander Grusinski. He married
Colette.
yeah. Yeah. So there was at least one marriage. And so it wasn't yeah, it wasn't a scandalous. I mean, maybe they just didn't tell me, but
I'm gonna say
uh,
no. Honestly, watching all of Steve's lost tapes, reading everything that everybody else has said, even not on your book, even because Charlotte Stewart has a whole section on it on her little house on Hollywood Hills, and it's actually her talking about her own personal issues with alcoholism and trying to deal with that, like having that on the set. But it's not. Everybody was doing their best. I don't know. I think they all liked making the movie and having a good time. So it's not your fault that nothing bad happened.
well,
Good time
exactly.
machine. Don't get more scandal.
Exactly. And you just read that and you think, what were we expecting? But
I just had to like call it out for you to be like, just ignore that guy. Ignore whoever that was. Like they're wrong.
yeah.
um,
Well, I don't think it's harmed. I think it's good as well to have a rounded this is the thing about putting something into the world. I mean, you're doing the same with this podcast. You know, you're this video podcast. What are we calling it?
it is a
vod,
podcast. It is. I do both. There's video.
yeah.
I do a
Yeah.
live show. Like so,
But
it's a.
you know, whenever you put something out into the world, I mean, I didn't really think about it when I was doing the Tremors one. For some reason, I wasn't very, and I still don't really care. I mean, you want great reviews, but you don't do it for great reviews. You know, you do it because you obviously want to get a story out there and something that hopefully is a celebration of that project, that film. And yeah, you want it to be good and as best you can be. But if some people don't like it, well, but it's crazy, isn't it? It's if because yeah, if you worried about what other people thought, you would never do anything. Certainly not this. I mean, I go into book. It's brilliant. You know, it's great though. I mean, I go into the odd bookshop and I'll see my book on the shelf, and it's just such a great feeling. But at the same time, you think, well, that's yeah. Well, people don't like that. I don't know. I don't think about that. You can't think about
They
that.
sell your book in Lone Pine. Your book is in the actual Tremors Museum in Lone Pine. You know, like that's
Amazing,
huge.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's one
I
reason I want to go, so I can just get my photo taken beside the Lone
over
Pine.
here.
I want to go there. I want to see the graboid they've got.
Oh, I know the Graboid and the Shrieker, and yes, all
Yeah.
yeah. I got. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. And on the rating, so the podcast has a 3.9 on Spotify, and usually when I see like other people's podcasts, they have like all 5 stars. But somebody decided to rate mine like a 1 star at one point, and I only have 7 reviews, and I got a 3.9 on Spotify. I'm just like, it's fine, it's cool. I'll deal with it, man.
Well,
Just keep.
yeah, I think there's this thing. I don't know if you saw that thing recently with Kevin Smith. He did a podcast with Michael Rosenbaum, I think it was, from
Ooh,
Smallville, and they were talking
yeah,
just the
yeah.
other week, and Kevin Smith said something. I think they were talking about, Kevin Smith maybe ripping into a film or saying he didn't like it or whatever. And he said, well, since I had my heart attack, I look at the world in a different way. And he says, I'm not going to spend time criticizing things. I want to spend time celebrating the things I love. And so I'm not going to sit here and, rip to shreds the latest Marvel movie or whatever. I'm going to talk about the thing I do love. So that's something I've tried to do. I know this podcast we may be going off a little bit, and I'm not always try to not be nasty about those new Tremors films. And I think if Don Michael Paul was listening, he might think I'm being nasty. I hope not. I think it sounds like from what you've said, speaking to him, he knows where things were compromised and he maybe had to do certain things. Um, but no, I wouldn't. I would try and so I suppose with that, what I said about those reviews and that one I left in Letterboxd for grabbers, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I didn't say I hated it, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I think 3 stars is actually an okay. That's middle of the road, and I think 3 stars is great. I'd be happy with a 3 star review. I think when you get under that, that's when you're a bit like, oh, okay.
That 2 star. Ooh.
2 stars, yeah, not great. And I actually reviewed something 2.5 stars on Letterboxd the other day, and then I changed it to just making it 0, and as in just no stars at all, which could either mean you just thought it was. I think to me that just sort of means yeah, it was okay, and um, but no, I think try and be positive. I think that's ideally. I'll try not to say on Twitter, for example, like new Doctor Who. I don't like everything, and nobody's going to like everything. But for the ones I don't like, I don't go on and say I hated that. But if it's a good one, then I'll try and go on and say, oh, I enjoyed that.
Well, there's the what I
It's too
think
much
is that
hate.
difference between like criticism and wanting something to be better. And like I always
Yeah,
feel like if you're going to critique it, offer something. And in
that's
fact,
true.
with your Grabbers review, it did. It said it's not as good as Tremors. It's no Tremors. So it's like, hey, Grabbers, you did good. I like what you're doing. Be a little bit more like Tremors next time. So like that's and I try to do
Yeah,
that with the podcast too. I have ripped those films a lot, and I have actually paid my penance and stared down Michael Paul in the eye. And I've had that moment with
yeah,
like the 3 star review. I'm just like, yeah, it was me, and I'm gonna go walk over here. I'm sorry.
yeah,
And you just celebrating and trying to be positive. It's so much better
yeah,
than just hating all the time. Makes my
yeah,
heart not like get a heart attack either. I don't have to get so angry. Well,
yeah.
this has been great. Oh,
Life
keep
is
going.
short, isn't it? Life is short. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember. I don't know if I mentioned the last. I can't remember when we did our last episode, but it was
January 27th, right
right.
before I released my movie.
So I might have mentioned at the time. I don't know why I'm even mentioning this. It's just in passing, really. But a friend of mine who I wasn't a huge, I met him sort of through being a fan of Quantum Leap. Actually, a guy called Matt Dale, who wrote a book about Quantum Leap years ago, and then I connected with him on social media. I met him last year, and he was doing the Quantum Leap podcast, and he was writing different volumes of his book. And I got to meet him in Swansea at Doctor Who convention, and he signed my book, and it was lovely to meet him. On Christmas Day, he died, and he was 20. He was, I think, 40. I don't know. Let's say 40, 41, 42. And I've just mentioned that because he was so positive about everything. He was a huge fan of Quantum Leap. And although I had my problems with the new one, he loved it. And they actually ended up dedicating an episode to Matt. And he's a fan that lived in the UK. And anyway, but it's just that I suppose I sometimes there was something in yeah, but we could go on about all this sort of
No,
stuff.
no,
But it's just this idea of I think there was something I think it might have been in the new Doctor Who. So it's sort of a spoiler, but there's something about remembering the people who have gone. You're seeing life. What was it? You're seeing life for them, on their behalf, sort of thing. So you're the people that are left behind are experiencing life on behalf of the people that are gone, and just remembering them, and also just looking at life in an interesting way, and seeing the wonder and the awe in the universe because those other people can't do it. And I think there was something in that comment that just made me think about Matt as well. So it's just that positivity thing of someone who doesn't go online saying, "Oh God, I hated that all the time," and is thinking, "Well, at least I'm here. I can see it, and let's just try and enjoy things, and because you know we're not going to be here forever, and um, you know these things are meant to entertain us, aren't they? They're just films and TV shows, but hopefully they bring a bit of joy to our lives.
Fun to go back to that. I feel like that's been our theme for this. Just like sci
Fun,
fun,
yeah.
fun to see. Like that's the gotta have
Yeah, well,
some.
it's that thing, isn't it? Of after a tough day or a tough week. I mean, what's this Saturday night for me? Rock and roll, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and it's great. We're speaking to you. That's brilliant. No, but you know, what do you do when you're tired? You know, sometimes you'll just want to, and you look around you at the universe, at the world, and think, oh, it's a bit grim. I'll put on Tremors, or I'll put on Highlander, and that'll cheer me up. And it'll be, or it could be Alien, it could be anything like that, or Back to the Future. Sometimes I just think I want to put on Back to the Future and just have. Doesn't matter that I've seen it a million times, but
It's that joy, that wellspring of like, oh, I love this cup that
yeah,
I'm drinking.
totally. And a lot of the times I think it'll bring you back to when maybe when you first saw it. And I was, what was I? I must have been 8 or 9, I think 8. Whenever it was like 1986, I think it came out in the UK. Back to the Future, I think. Um, so I would have been 9, probably 8 or 9. Anyway, you know that brings you back to that time of going to see it at the cinema with your mum or your dad or whatever. And first time I saw that was amazing. And anyway, yes, entertainment.
Well,
We're lucky that we have these Tremors films. They're just great, aren't they? They're just great fun.
yeah. Well, that's where I still watch 5, 6, and 7, trying to get some fun out of it and trying to understand something. Actually, of those three, I love 6 the most because I can tell the cast is having fun. Like
Mm,
those people, like I don't know about their characters being well developed, but I can tell that those like that group of a dozen or so people are just having a great time hanging out in South Africa, making a Tremors movie, and it's why it's my favorite out of those three. It's just like it is 100%. I can feel their fun through
right.
the screen, and that's why I enjoy it. There's other problems with it, but I don't. I watch them and have a good time.
Well,
To
you
this
switch off. I think it's good. It's good to switch your brain off sometimes and just go with it. And yeah,
Fast and Furious movie, like I said, are they great
yeah,
movies?
totally.
No. Like watching them, I sure do.
Oh, yeah, and they
uh,
filmed one of them here in Edinburgh. They filmed, is it Fast 9 or 10? I'm not sure which. I've not seen it yet, but they filmed it. Yeah, they blocked off part of the street, and yeah.
oh
So
wow!
I don't know if it
Oh my
was
god, I
was
just
it.
how do I not know that? Sorry,
Yeah, I don't know
I
if
should.
it was set in Edinburgh or not, or but I think it probably would have been. But I don't know
I
what they
feel
were
like it
doing in
had to have been.
Edinburgh, but
They globe trot everywhere. That's where I'm like, why did I not remember that? I feel really dumb now. Like I just watched those over the last week, so I'm like, now I got to rewatch them again. Uh-oh. uh, I got one real final question here, and you
right,
can
right.
you can you can 3-star review me. You can 2-star review. Like this is a whole thing. What'd you think about my Tremors movie, John?
I
Was
thought there
it
was a
fun?
lot. Well, I loved the enthusiasm and the fact that you took it seriously. Back to that, it's like I mean, I'm not saying it's exactly like the first Tremors, but the way that you took it, you know, you take it seriously, but there is that tongue in cheek. You know, you're well aware of what you're doing, I think. But I think there was But I think it was just, yeah, it was definitely just that enthusiasm and just going for it. And I didn't know what was going to happen next. And it was good fun. Back to fun. Let's just use that word again. We've used it so many times.
I'm not crying. You're crying. It's fine. I'm okay.
No, well done for doing it. I mean, that's the same as me writing a book. You know, you've actually gone out there and made something. So, and I think that's fantastic that Tremors inspired that. And Steve and Brent and they and Mike, all these guys that inspired you to do that. It's fantastic.
Thank you, because it ain't no Citizen Kane, and it definitely ain't the first Tremors, but it was just I wanted to share my love and a little bit of fun. So you just made me
Well,
cry. I'm okay.
that totally comes across in it, and yeah, just the effort that went into it, and I don't know how long it took you to do it, but it looks like it took a while. Did it? Did it take a
It
bit of?
did. I have reshoots too. I actually have a director's cut I need to do because I did some reshoots after I released that, even that I had to like go back in. I'm like, I got to sit down and actually tool it out again. But I really learned that I don't like watching. It's where I can't edit my own podcast. Like editing yourself for a movie and like looking at yourself and your voice and cutting that is just like I really want to kill my character off if I ever make another one. Like it's just like that person's
Yeah.
just got to go, and then somebody else comes in.
Yeah.
But thank you, John. Like honestly, you don't need that. It was fun, and that the tongue in cheek. I did. I tried to give all my love to Stampede and everything. Like that was the point of it
Yeah,
all.
there's loads of little in jokes. I can't remember them all just now, but there was quite a lot
Oh,
of
it
in jokes,
was.
weren't there?
Oh, if
Yeah.
you like, it's one of those you'd have to rewatch to be like, oh, that's
Yeah.
obviously that, and like there and there. I know my Tremors lore. I got like
Of
almost
course.
60 episodes. Yes, I better know it.
Of course.
But this has
well
been
done.
so like thank you so much, John. Like I don't know if we need a part three. Maybe part three is just we talk about Doctor Who. Who's your favorite Doctor? That's my last one. Like I just gotta know.
Patrick Troughton, second Doctor.
Nice. I've only ever watched him one time through. Him 1 and 2. I've only ever watched one once through. But
I just
I
love
think
the Doctor and Jamie. And I think it helps that I met Fraser Hines a few times, and he's just such a nice guy. And I just love, that second Doctor's just fantastic, and all those. I just think that era, that block, those his seasons were just had it's like the horror in there was great, and he was, he's funny as well, and him and Jamie had just such a great rapport, and the Scottishness, I suppose the fact Jamie is Scottish. But I went to Culloden actually recently. I went a few weeks ago, and I wasn't. Sadly, there's no memorial to Jamie McCrimmon. Not that he died, of course, there, but nice to have a mention. But no, Culloden's a great place to go to as well. Culloden Moor.
oh, well, that was not
Anyway,
the
yeah.
answer I was expecting. I was actually expecting Sylvester McCoy. That was what I thought you were going to say. But
Well, to be honest, I mean, Sylvester McCoy, he's the first Doctor I will watch. Not, he wasn't, well, yeah, he
that's what
was
I meant.
actually,
Like
I think. Well,
timeline coming into. That's what I thought. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of got into it in when he was the Doctor properly. I mean, I'd watched some episodes, but we used to have the A Team on a Saturday night opposite Doctor Who because ITV were trying to take the ratings away from Doctor Who. So I would watch the A Team every week because I loved the cars and just everything about it. And then, of course, Doctor Who was happening. I didn't really know much about it. And then a few years later, started watching it. And then it got cancelled just after I started watching it. So I maybe
Well,
watched it
that
for
was
3 years, and then it got cancelled, and then it was gone for, yeah. Anyway, a
a
whole
whole
other
other.
podcast,
No,
isn't
no,
it?
no. That was. Like I said, I needed. That was my one. I had to know. I just had to know because we all got our own. I said it last time. 12. Give me some Peter Capaldi all day long.
Yeah.
But this has been like so. I can't thank you enough, John. And again, for everybody out there, you need to go buy A Kind of Magic, the Highlander book, local here. Actually, this is one I really want to like. I need to watch this movie now because of you. And then the official guide to Tremors, Seeking Perfection, by Jonathan Melville. Buy them all, and just do it. I don't. There's going to
Yeah.
be an
Thank you.
audiobook, but you should still buy the regular book because that's just the thing. It's gonna.
Yeah.
I've said it. It's gonna exist now, and now, John, don't worry about the AI. It's not. It's not a problem. I'm actually really interested in that in general because I want to do Steve's books. Steve has books, and I've been like begging Steve to like do audiobooks for Tuckers and Frady Cats, and now I'm like, hey, Steve, you just record like 3 hours of this little AI thing,
Yeah.
and you've done those. So thank you so much, John. Everybody, if you've been thanked on the show before, you thank now. You're all awesome. You're all great. But none of you compare it to Jonathan Melville, who I will leave and let him get all of his last words in. This has been Talking Tremors. I am Levi Dylan Burzloff-Lett, and this is the guy who Kevin Bacon has his book on his shelf. Remember that, folks. Remember
Yep.
that.
Thank
Go,
you.
John.
Thanks for having me on again. You need to go and watch Doctor Who now.
I will And actually, I got my nephews here this weekend, so that's like we're gonna go see a Tarzan musical later, but Doctor Who is before that, and I need to know. I need to know. They've all been pretty awesome so far.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
yeah,
hope you enjoy it.
go ahead and shout your people out, and we'll. Oop, I just got myself. Shout your people out and end the show, John. I always leave the guest with the last word, so take it away.
Who am I shouting out? Sorry, just
What? I don't know. Just your life. I don't know. How's your wall? I love you, wall over there. My books are great. Whatever you feel like, man. It's a.
no.
I talk.
I don't have any amazing things to end on. Just thanks for letting me blather for 2 hours. Um, and yeah, if you enjoyed Seeking Perfection, then leave a 5-star review on Amazon. Get rid of that 2-star, push it down. And if you buy a copy, then you can get people to sign it. So that's why everyone should own one. So yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I'm glad people have got something to get signed. I mean, you can get the DVD cover, I suppose, but this is better.